Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Will County Board recess meeting for April 19, 2018. We'll call this meeting to order. If everyone would please stand. County Board Member Beth Rice will lead us in the pledge and then introduce our clergy for this morning.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Our pastor this morning, Pastor Herb Brooks Jr., does not need an introduction to many of us. However, it is my pleasure to introduce Pastor Brooks. Pastor Brooks of St. John Missionary Baptist Church in Joliet has been married to Gwen for 44 years. He wears many hats, wears them well. Father of 5 children, grandfather to 9 grandchildren, representative of County Board District 8, and committed pastor. Pastor Brooks is appreciated for starting so many of our meetings with spiritual focus.
Thank you so much, Beth. I have some acronyms called TMI, too much information, but thank you for that, Beth. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Would you join me in prayer, please? Gracious Father, we come before this altar on today, asking your blessings upon our country of America as we mourn the loss of our former First Lady in the person of Barbara Bush, praying for the state of Texas and all of her family and America family across these United States. And Lord, we come praying for peace in our country today. As your word reminds us in John 14 and verse 26, that you give comfort to this country and comfort to the Bush family, and that you will leave us that peace that the world cannot give to you, but the peace that only comes from our Lord Jesus Christ. And Lord, as we come today, we ask your blessing upon this meeting, our agenda, all of our 26 legislative body, our executive, and all of the employees and workers that we call Will County government. Thank you, Lord, for another meeting. Thank you, Lord, for this day. In our Lord's name we do pray, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you very much.
I like that.
Right there, he's operating in his other role.
Thank you.
Ready? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Mayor? Brooks? Ogala? Summers? Singer? Moran? Rice?
Here.
Harris? Trainier? Benefield? Fritz? Gould? Militello? Balich? Frizzalone? Winfrey?
Here.
Parker? Staley Ferry? Dollinger? Markham? Hart? Tuminello? Weigel? Ferry? Codias? And Mustis. Thank you.
25 present, 1 absent.
25 present, and we do have a quorum present. Entertain a motion to place on file certificate of publication. Moved by Ms. Summers, second by Mr. Ferry. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Sure. Mayor? Brooks? Ogala? Summers? Singer? Moran? Rice?
Yes.
Harris? Trainier? Benefield? Fritz? Gould? Militello? Balich? Frizzalone? Winfrey?
Yes.
Parker? Staley Ferry? Dollinger? Markham? Tuminello? Weigel? Ferry? Codias? And Mustis. Thank you.
25 affirmative.
25 affirmative, motion has carried. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the recess meeting of the March 15, 2018 County Board meeting. Moved by Mr. Gold and seconded by Ms. Militello. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Traynard, second by Ms. Parker. All in favor, say by aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried. Madam Clerk, would you please acknowledge the elected officials and the media that's present this morning?
Sure. Auditor Duffy Blackburn, County Clerk Nancy Schultz-Foots, County Executive Larry Walsh, State's Attorney James Glasgow. In the media, we have Farmers Weekly Review, Nick Fryer, and Southtown Susan Lafferty. Good morning.
Morning. We have one proclamation to be read this morning into the record, and Ms. Lauren Staley Ferry, she has a recognized April National Fair Housing Month. Ms. Staley Ferry.
Good morning, thank you. I would like to read into the record a proclamation recognizing April 2018 as National Fair Housing Month. Whereas Will County finds that decent and safe housing is part of the American dream and a goal of all Illinois residents. And whereas individuals in the state of Illinois have the right to choose where to live without discrimination based on race, color, religion, age, sex, familial status, marital status, national origin, ancestry, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, military status, unfavorable military discharge, and order of protection status. And whereas acts of housing discrimination and barriers to equal housing opportunity are repugnant to a common sense of decency and fairness. And whereas federal and state laws affirm the right of every person to equal housing opportunity. And whereas fair housing is a positive community good. And whereas economic stability, community health, and human relations in all communities in the state of Illinois are improved by diversity and integration. And whereas stable, integrated, and balanced residential patterns are threatened by discriminatory acts and unlawful housing practices that result in segregation of residents and opportunities in our region. And whereas the talents of grassroots and nonprofit organizations, housing service providers, financial institutions, elected officials, state agencies, and others must be combined to promote and preserve integration, fair housing, and equal opportunity. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Will County Board and the Will County Executive proclaim the month of April as National Fair Housing Month and establishes Will County as an open and inclusive community committed to fair housing and promotes appropriate activities by private and public entities intended to provide or advocate for integration and equal housing opportunities for all residents and prospective residents of Will County. Dated this 19th day of April, 2018, and I so move.
Moved by Ms. Staley Ferry, second by Ms. Winfield. And any discussion? Previous, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried. Thank you, Lauren. Next up, all resolutions approved at the March 15, 2018 County Board meeting have been signed by the County Executive. Next up, under new business, we're honored this morning to have some guest speakers from CMAP, and the Executive Director of CMAP is Joe Sable, and he's here along with staff. And come on down and give us some explanation on how CMAP is doing.
Well, thank you, Executive Walsh, for the opportunity to come out and talk briefly to the Will County Board. I get the easy part. I get to give you a little bit of background about CMAP, who we are, what we do, why we do it, and then Jesse will take over the meat of the presentation, and then we'll both be prepared to answer any questions that you might have. But who is CMAP? We were established by the Illinois General Assembly in 2006. And if I had to take 3 words to summarize what it is that we do, those 3 words would be to help communities prosper. It's very simple. We serve as the region's comprehensive planning agency, and under state statute, our mandate is to integrate land use and transportation planning with the goal of driving economic growth and high quality of life for our 8.5 million residents. Our region, it takes up all 7 counties, as well as the city of Chicago. So that's 284 municipalities, and as I said, 8.5 million residents. One of the functions that we undertake as part of being a comprehensive planning agency is serving as the federally designated Metropolitan Planning Organization, or in short term we call it MPO. And our job as the MPO is to develop the region's long-range transportation plan, but it is just one piece, it's one segment, it's one section of a broader comprehensive plan for the region. And so that transportation piece has to fit in with the broader goals and policies for the region. But it's critical because transportation projects have to be in the comprehensive plan in order to receive federal funding. And so we're in the process now, every 10 years under federal law, we're required to prepare a new long-range plan for the region. And so we're currently undertaking that effort right now for our next long-range plan, which is titled On to 2050. It has a 30-year time frame, which is the expectation under federal law. And it's the successor to our last plan, which was called Go to 2040. That was actually CMAP's first plan after established by the Assembly in 2006. That plan won several national awards. So our goal is to do even better now as we undertake our efforts for the 2050 plan. So we're in the final stretch. We're about 2.5 years now into what has been a 3-year process of extensive research, analysis, public outreach. When I mentioned that the 2040 plan won national awards, one of those was for its outreach component. And in putting together the 2050 plan, I actually set the goal for staff that I wanted to more than double the amount of contacts that we made in the preparation of this plan, and actually staff has exceeded that. We're going to better than triple the amount of public outreach and comments to our residents and citizens, triple it over what we did a decade ago, and that one won national awards. Draft public comment period will be from June 15th to August 14th, and adoption is planned for October 10th. There's 3 overarching principles to the 2050 plan. Prioritize investment. How do we make sure that we get the maximum return for our residents for every single penny that we're investing? Inclusive growth, making sure that all corners of the region, all residents of the region have the opportunity to participate in a meaningful way in our economy. And resiliency. How do we make sure our communities are more resilient, whether it's the impacts of the flooding problems that we're having, whether it's being more resilient to other shockers that communities are facing, such as the fiscal stress that so many are under. At CMAP, we believe that dispassionate analysis is the key to everything that we do. We have to see where good analysis, where facts take us. And that means prioritizing investments. Like I said, how do we make sure that our residents get the highest rate of return on limited transportation dollars? And this is going to be critical. We face, walking into this plan, a $24 billion shortfall. You heard that right, a $24 billion shortfall to simply maintain the system we have today in the condition it's in today. So if you want to keep the failing system that we have in the current decayed condition, we have to come up with $24 billion more. And if we want to do any modernization and improvement, we're going to need even more than that. And so our transportation programs required by federal law to be constrained. And so as we get into the reasonably expected revenues, that's the picture that we're walking into as we put together those pieces for the constrained program. And so the bottom line is our goal is a major emphasis on fix it first, modernizing existing assets. We think that has to be the focus. And so Jesse will talk through what that means particularly to you folks in the context of the freight plan that you prepared over this past year, and how those pieces, many of those programs, those priorities get achieved. So Jesse, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Joe, and I appreciate the opportunity to come talk to you this morning. I'm Jesse Elam. I'm the Director of Programming at CMAP, which means that I run the transportation grant programs at CMAP. I am going to try to take the overarching principles that Joe talked about down to a specific list of capital projects. Not all the capital projects across the region that we care about, but the ones that are most relevant to Will County. So in On to 2050, we are trying to put together a balanced set of projects that best meets the needs of the whole region. That also means meeting local needs, like some of the key projects in the Will County Community Friendly Freight Plan, which we believe that On to 2050 reflects. But the point is, going back to fiscal constraint that Joe briefly mentioned, we can't do everything, so we have to have priorities. Our federal rules that govern how we do the plan say that we have to show that we can reasonably pay for the improvements we recommend while also making sure that the whole system is adequately maintained. So those projects that are in the fiscally constrained part of the plan, they can move forward, they can get federal approvals and participate in federal financing programs. On the flip side, those projects that are on the unconstrained part of the plan, that doesn't necessarily mean those are bad projects. It may mean that they just need more study. It may mean that they are not quite ready or ripe enough for the region to commit to. And there's always the opportunity, since we go through a planning process every 4 years, there's always an opportunity to come back around. So before I get into the list itself, I want to tell you a little bit about how we came to it. We arrived at the list by first asking for candidate projects from our partner agencies as well as from the public. And what's in the plan is really driven by what came out of that process, what was submitted to us. We got a list of over 100 projects that came to $140 billion in today's money, which is a lot. So we knew that we had to narrow that down through an evaluation process that looked at the needs the project addressed right now. It looked at modeled performance. We did technical evaluation using forecasts, of jobs and population, and then how well the project fits with On to 2050 priorities, which Joe mentioned, those being prioritized investment, inclusive growth, and resilience. So the staff recommendation that we're talking about and that is out for stakeholders to review really reflects the financial situation of the region, the fact that we do have these really large gaps in what revenue we have available and the needs on the system. It reflects that financial situation, and it reflects our need to modernize and rebuild a lot of the existing expressway and transit system that's out there. So the draft list of fiscally constrained projects that most directly benefit Will County are as follows. I-80, big priority in the plan. There are actually two I-80 projects, one west of US 30 and the other east of US 30 to 294. The western segment has some big state of good repair problems. It's got some bridges in bad shape, some pavement that needs reconstruction, as well as some safety issues. Actually, there are multiple locations along I-80 that are in the top 5% worst safety locations across the state. So the eastern part is more of a capacity addition, but we're really recommending that I-80 be seen as an entire corridor where we're looking at all the problems, not necessarily just fixing the stuff through Joliet or doing short-term projects there, but really looking at the overall needs on that whole corridor. So the draft plan is recommending that. I-55, the constrained list that we're recommending includes improvements south of I-80. Big priorities there, like the Lorenzo Road interchange. Ultimately, this project would include, over the 30 years of the plan, adding new capacity, adding new lanes, and within, again, the 30-year period of the plan, reconstructing all of I-55 all the way to downtown. It will ultimately need that over the 30 years of the plan. There are also a couple of projects on county jurisdiction roads. One is to expand Laraway Road and take it from a rural cross-section up to something with more capacity. That's a near-term priority for the county. Another is a capacity increase and reconfiguration of Wilmington Peatone Road. So those are the projects that are being recommended for the fiscally constrained list that benefit Will County. Let me talk a little bit about some that are on the unconstrained list. One is Ileana Expressway. That project would have the benefit of getting trucks from the intermodal facilities off of rural roads that were never designed to carry that much truck traffic. But it is a new greenfield project, whereas the plan, as we kind of hinted before, is trying to fix problems on the existing system. And so the plan is suggesting that we fix and expand I-80, which will serve some of the same trips that the Ileana Expressway would, while fixing the state of good repair and safety problems that I mentioned earlier. Another one is Caton Farm Bruce Road. This project is in preliminary engineering right now. The project team is still looking at route alternatives, so there's much work to be done before that scope is final. It also needs some work on how to finance the project. So this is a project that could be ready by the time the plan is updated in 4 years, but it isn't right yet. So those are some of the projects in Onto 2050 with in draft Onto 2050 with a Will County focus. I also want to point out that the constrained list that I just ran through is definitely not the only capital investments that matter, that need to be made in the region. These are just the ones that are big enough and have broad enough impacts that they deserve more discussion as part of the regional planning process. Before I leave, I want to wrap up with another and complementary project to Onto 2050. CMAP is also developing what we are calling a vision for the Northeastern Illinois Expressway system. The expressways were mostly built in the 50s and 60s and actually even laid out in the 30s and 40s. So the question is, when we rebuild these, which we're going to need to rebuild a lot of the expressway system over the next 30 years, what do we do to make it a 21st century system? What does a 21st century expressway system look like? How do things like automated vehicles change what we do? There's a lot of questions to be answered there, and we're trying to answer them as part of a joint project with IDOT and with the tollway. And we plan to release this vision for the Northeastern Illinois Expressway system after Onto 2050 is done, as one of our first major implementation projects. Should be coming out in December or January. So this expressway vision is going to build on what we learned in the regional plan. We also want to add more detail there, explore some other options. So for instance, on I-80, we'll be studying different toll rates and looking at some things that haven't been done in the region, because I think, as I failed to mention perhaps earlier, doing any major project on I-80 is most likely going to need tolling to actually finance that project. And so we would like to study that in a bit more detail in the expressway vision. We'd also like to look at a couple of things that haven't been done in the region or really anywhere in the United States, and that would be things like including a truck-only facility. So there's a lot of interesting things to be looked at the expressway vision. We mean this project to set the stage for really transformative investments in the years to come, and that includes having better integration of transit on the expressway corridors. So again, we appreciate the chance to address the board this morning. There is a lot more to Onto 2050 than could be talked about in these 15 or so minutes that we have here. But we would encourage you all to dig in to the drafts of the plan, which are, again, out for stakeholder review right now. And we are looking for feedback from all of our partners in the next few weeks so that we can revise and then release the plan for public comment in the summer.
So with that, we would take any questions. There'll be 10 public hearings over the summer across the region for public input, as well as the opportunity to provide that input online. And as Jesse indicated, individual chapters are out now to our various committee members for their input and review. I know John Gruling's been reviewing chapters. Your different appointees to our various committees all are reviewing chapters. And as Jesse said, I mean, there's so much more, so much more to the plan than just strictly the transportation piece, but that's what we were asked to focus on in our 10, 15 minutes this morning. So,
Question, Mr. Mustis.
I actually have a couple of questions.
okay.
And you mentioned tolling. And it seems it's shifting about the role perhaps tolling is going to play in the future.
Yeah.
And I guess that's really my question is, it's not necessarily something CMAP looked at in the past. I mean, tolling of roads becoming a form of financing.
Yeah.
Infrastructure.
So
so we're, so you see that going forward. I see there seems to be more cooperation than there once was between like IDOT and the toll authority and CMAP. There just seems to be a shift in attitude, and I guess that's what my question.
So was it a part of the 2040 plan? Yes, but I think it's a higher degree of emphasis today for a combination of reasons. One, you talk about the relationship, and it is very strong between IDOT, CMAP, and the tollway. I mean, that is why IDOT and the Tollway came to us and asked us to undertake, the comprehensive expressway study. And there's a clear understanding that there has to be a financing plan that goes along with it, that we don't get to just dream a vision. It's got to be a vision that is also matched up with revenues to implement. And so while tolling and things, concepts like managed lanes and that were certainly a part of the 2040 plan, I think the acuteness of our funding challenges as a region is much more severe today than it was a decade ago. And then you take a look at how federal policy is evolving. There's just simply no getting away from the fact that user fees are going to have to pay for the system, and that tolling is one that is appropriate. Jesse, anything you want to add on that?
No, I think that's fair enough. I would say federal policy has been loosening up towards tolling for some time now, and I think ultimately Congress is going to have to embrace that on the interstate system to help finance the reconstruction of that system.
I talk about the analysis that we do as an agency that we're pretty proud of, and I mean, we've done all the analysis on the diminishing buying power that the current gas tax provides. The fact that both on a federal and state level that it's not only not been increased, was never indexed to inflation. And so the purchasing power on that, the loss is dramatic. You compound that with the fact that vehicles are becoming much more efficient, and so we have to become more creative. Obviously, it's going to be real important as these conversations take place that we explain to the public and educate to the public what's in it for them, why it's in their best interest. And that's why we do focus so heavily on the prioritized investment, that it's about achieving that trust with the public, that every penny we're spending is getting them the best return.
Thank you.
Mr. Singer?
Good morning, guys. Thank you for being here. I want to begin by saying that I come to the conversation to some extent with a bias, and no offense to you, but years ago I had advocated we not participate in CMAP, or that we find a way to be removed from that. And I still contend that. Again, nothing to do with your work and your presentation, but simply because I believe then and now that in the big picture, over time, that two issues. One is that having an organization that has a growing grip on policy and influencing policy from those who are unelected, it changes our process to a point that is not advantageous at all to suburban communities. But also that on average, the investment that Will County residents and taxpayers would have to pay compared to the potential benefit that they would receive over time is dramatically insignificant compared to those in Cook County, especially when CMAP has a board that's primarily governed by people from Chicago and Cook County. So I just want you to know, I'm coming, primarily, majority. So it's not a suburban majority board. It's a Cook County, Chicago majority board. However, so I just want you to know, I come to that with a bias.
Yeah.
But because there's a degree of cynicism in here. I'm being remarkably honest here this morning about my cynicism, because I'm looking at your plan, and it calls for a number of tax increases. And I understand that roads are expensive. I also understand that, to be honest, again, the gas tax is not kept up with time. And you're calling for an 8 cent or 8%. I forgot, 8 cent or 8%. One of the two. Which one was it?
It's not a percentage. It's a actual
8 cent.
That was the 2040 recommendation, I believe.
To keep up with inflation, it would need to go up by about 15, 16
Okay,
cents.
so 15, 16 cents. Okay, big number. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever the number is, I understand those things. I think there might be alternatives to it, but I understand it because as you had talked about, Congress is making it clearer, the federal government is making it clearer, they're going to be participating less.
Regions are going to have to
less in this.
rely on self-help.
Yes, local regions have to come up with the money,
Yeah.
and that's primarily going to go to user fees. I understand all that. However, when I look at the proposed taxes within the plan, including an increase in the gas tax, congestion pricing, potentially mileage pricing, as we start to see in some states out west. I mean, these are just tacked on and on and on. And I'll tell you that someone sitting in this seat, and I imagine a number of people on this board, and certainly our residents would have a degree of cynicism that even while those taxes could be increased, and those specific monies may very well go to a road improvement program, the state would then do what it's always done in the past and take what was originally targeted for roads and put it somewhere else. So I would encourage you, within your policy statements, to address those issues.
Yeah.
I would encourage you to, whatever
And actually,
silly
we-
term is, like
we do.
lockbox or whatever it
Right.
is.
It may not be clear to you, but that is what we talk about, the necessary reform that needs to go, that the public deserves, with any revenue enhancement, and what we're talking about when it's
Tax increase.
prioritized investment.
Revenue enhancement, tax increase.
But I do want to come back to your point, because I think you have a misconception on the makeup of our board. As you know, it's a 15-person board.
Yes.
It requires a supermajority of 12 to approve anything, and it is made up predominantly of suburban mayors, from Cook, Will, Kane, Kendall, McHenry, Lake,
But that's my
and
point.
DuPage.
Is that I understand. We can talk about semantics all day, but my opinion about the political makeup of that board remains. Anyway, my point this morning is that again, I have two primary concerns, and I wanted them voiced in this public area. One of them is, again, I have concerns about Will County participating in an organization where that organization can impact public policy in a significant way as it relates to funding by people who are not elected to represent them. That is one big concern. It's been mine since this concept was originated, and it always will be. And the second one is that we have, as part of those, advocated public policies. A considerable amount of tax increases, revenue enhancements, or whatever we want to call them, they're tax increases, and we're taking more money from people in a state that is absolutely killing its residents and driving them out of the state. For that matter, we may not have to worry about road improvements at all once everyone leaves Illinois. But without, frankly, and guys, this isn't your problem. You're participating in it.
Yeah.
You didn't create it. But this is
My point is, we're the advocates of good government.
Well-
We're the advocates of the reform. We're the advocates of the prioritized investment. We're the advocates of being transparent to make sure that every penny that does get invested in our transportation system or to other projects, through good analysis, shows it's given the highest level of return to the public.
I hope so, but here's what I wanted to end it with. What we didn't review today was the long list of other infrastructure projects that are a higher priority in Cook, Lake in particular, because that's having some major issues, DuPage, particularly eastern DuPage, but certainly Cook in the city. And my concern, as it has been in the past and will continue, is that the amount of money, should these tax increases come into play as public policy, as advocated by CMAP, should those tax increases come into play, and 700,000 Will County residents are paying those tax increases, that on average, they are not going to see that kind of benefit, because I just don't believe that when push comes to shove, Lorenzo Road is going to be the priority, or that billions of dollars towards I-80 is going to be the priority. It's going to eventually continue to be centered into the more metropolitan
So
area.
let me just say this. When we do our work, we do not look at segments of the region. We view this as one unified region, and our decisions are made what brings the highest level of value to the economic growth and the quality of life of every corner of this region. So it comes back to what I said early on about inclusive growth and making sure that all parts of the region, all citizens of the region, have an opportunity to meaningfully participate in the economy. We don't play favorites. We do good analysis. We call balls and strikes. And we try to help all 284 of our communities prosper.
Well, that's enlightening. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, and my question will be a little bit shorter. It's okay. It was a good.
My time is limited.
I know it is. You have to get as much as you can. Mine too. You mentioned the amount, $140 billion. You didn't identify whether that went, and you were also talking about that as is that part of what Will County's take is? Is
140.
that,
140.
or is that for the regional project for the whole region?
The 140 was actually all the projects that were submitted by the public or by other public agencies, I should say, as candidates for regionally significant projects.
So when you went in and identified the I-80, the double projects, the 55, and have you come up with what your estimated cost was going to be for those projects? A little bit to what, Corey's saying here, the give back to this part of the region.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, like Joe said, that's not how we're thinking about it, as this part of the region put in X amount of tax dollars, and so therefore.
And again, I'm not looking at a
Right.
tit for tat. I'm just asking what the amount is that's estimated for these projects that you've identified.
Yes, so I-80 is probably, it's at least $1 billion, might be $2 billion, so it's
Might
up
be about
there.
4. Especially if you're putting additional lanes in, and we're
Yeah,
going to take a look
depending
at
on-
tolling and actually look at some parallel toll lanes for trucks.
Yeah, I'm talking about the western segment, full build out, but yes, I think the whole corridor could be as high as you're talking about, yeah.
Okay.
I-55, same thing. I think when you include reconstructing the bridges over the Des Plaines River, adding capacity there, it's going to be a big project.
And so, are you all involved when communities go in for their grants, federal and local grants? Are you helping sign off or doing letters of support in those processes?
Often when asked, I mean, one of the services that we do provide is our local technical assistance program, to where on an annual basis we have a call for projects from all of our 284 communities, as well as the 7 counties. We've done LTA work for Will. And roughly about somewhere to 25 to 30, 35 projects are selected each year. And we actually go in and help the communities put together projects based on their priorities. These are things that the local community wants, that the local village board and mayor wants. And so we help them with them. And often that does result in them coming to us asking for letters of support, which we do sign off on.
So we made it to the Secretary's desk. We were just in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And we were able, in our Tiger grant, we made it to the Secretary's desk, and we didn't get over the hump. They were looking at
Right.
more rural areas,
Right.
1 per state. So they highly recommended that we do this again. And Nick, did these guys put in a letter for us the last time? Maybe
We certainly
can-
have a long history of signing letters of support on Tiger projects. Whether
We did it this time. or
whether I
not.
signed one on that, I can't tell you for
But I think,
sure.
you've identified an actual major project that we're looking at here, and want to make sure that this is also brought out here in the public forum, that we'd like your support in getting this done next time, because this is not just a Will County thing. We're talking about the entire country is impacted by I-80 and the
Yeah.
traffic flow and safe traffic flow through this corridor.
Yeah.
So, thank
So
you.
it is not uncommon for us to support those types of things. Very common.
Any other questions? Mr. Moran?
Hi, Joe. You know what I'm going to ask about.
I don't, Don,
You're
but
removing.
go ahead, you can ask
You
about
guys
it.
are going to remove the Iliana Expressway from the fiscally constrained list. And I'm not sure that how up-to-date the data is that CMAP uses and making their decisions and that, but 3.5% of the gross national product in the country moves through our intermodal facilities. Last year, we built 22 million new square feet of warehouse space in Will County.
Yeah.
If you're looking at traffic studies and stuff that are even just a couple years old, they're obsolete for what's actually going on in our country, in our county. The Federal Highway Administration considers the supply chain on where products are moving from and moving to, and about somewhere around 90-something% of the product that goes from the West Coast to the East Coast travels through Will County on Class 1 railroads, as you're well aware.
Yeah.
So what I'm concerned about is removing it from the fiscally constrained list, even if there was no public money involved in building it, would probably take it off the list of projects that would get approval by the FHWA. And I'm asking to make sure that you guys are positive that that's what's in the best interest of the region and in
Yeah.
the country. Thank you.
So we are, Don, and to be clear, there's no greenfield development in the plan because of the different constraints that we're facing, as well as the need to focus on fix it first. Coming back to the earlier question about Lake County, I mean, the same thing's on 53-120. It's down in the second tier of projects. It's also on the unconstrained list, not on the constrained list, because it simply isn't right. You know, the EIS hasn't been done, and the public doesn't know what they're buying at this point. So it's not appropriate to move it. But to your point, the mobility is very important. And so our challenge is, how do we most cost-effectively provide that level of mobility that you need? And we believe the focus on 80 and 55, with the limited pennies that we have, is the best approach to provide that mobility.
That although fixing Interstate 80 through the corridor, through Joliet, and through that region is important, it's not going to increase the throughput and the number of trucks through this.
So actually, the approach that we're taking a look at does.
And, okay,
Yeah.
because I'm not sure that it's going to increase it to the capacity that's necessary. And even if it does, you're not going to fix the problem that happens at 80, 90 at the Indiana, Michigan, Illinois border, where trucks back up for a half hour in both directions at the border and can't get through there. That road's been under construction since I was 4 years old, or less probably, okay? And it's under construction every year, and there's a traffic jam there every day, every morning, every night. And increasing the throughput through the city of Joliet is not going to fix how freight gets from the west coast to the east coast, or even through this region. Thank you.
Okay. So our plan is quite a bit bigger than that, but it comes back to the challenges we face with limited pennies. How do we most effectively get the benefits out of those pennies for the public?
Ms. Summers?
I was just letting you know he wanted to speak.
Okay. Ms. Sagala?
Hi, thank you for the information you provided. I just wanted to say that I'm happy that CMAP is looking at projects like this, because I think in the past and here at the county, we had our state and federal legislative agendas, which concluded all the wishes that we had.
Yeah.
And I think it makes sense because dollars are limited, and instead of taking those dollars and spending it on the study she wants, and the study he wants, and the study he wants, we're taking the ones on the ones that are important, that the two up front want, need, and they're most important. So I think that then takes any extra money from the studies, puts it into these projects, gets them done, then you can move on the next set as you prioritize through the region. I think that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, that's certainly what we consider the most important part of our job. Everybody has a lot of wants, and there's no denying that there's a lot of needs. But somebody has to make those hard decisions on what is it that we focus on and make sure we get the best benefits.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any last questions? Well, thank you, Joe and Jesse, very much for coming down and enlightening us and spending some time with us.
Well, thank you for the invitation,
Thank
and happy to come back.
Okay, buddy.
Thank you.
Go get a coffee.
Okay, moving on. Land Use and Development Committee, Mr. Weigel, Chairman.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Tom.
I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing for land use cases. I'd like to point out that we have one resolution, 1883, which is an appeal of the Zoning Board of Appeals variance for Tyler Jabay, and we've got a request to table that, so we will not be approving that today. So any speakers that were going to speak to that would not necessarily have to do that. So it may be coming back next month. So I'd make the motion to open the public hearing.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, seconded by Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Sure. Mayor? Yes. Brooks? Yes. Ogala? Yes. Summers? Yes. Singer? Moran? Yes. Rice? Harris? Yes. Trainier? Yes. Benefield? Yes. Fritz? Yes. Gould? Yes. Militello? Balich? Yes. Frizzalone?
Yes.
Winfrey? Parker? Staley Ferry? Dollinger? Markham? Tumanello? Weigel?
Yes.
Ferry? Corliss? And Mustis. Thank you.
23 affirmative.
23, we are in public hearing. Please be advised that absolutely no new evidence or information will be allowed once this land use public hearing is closed. We do have some people that are here for speaking. First one is Daniel Bolin. Now, Mr. Bolin, your 83 isn't going to be debated. It's going to be tabled. So, if you want to speak today, you can, or come back next month. Tom.
I believe so.
Come on down.
Thank you, Executive Board and staff. My name is Dan Bolin. I'm an attorney for Ken and Fran Brewers, here speaking on a resolution 1883. I understand, very recently learned this might be taken up next month instead of today, but want to set the table for you for if and when this resolution is considered. This is an appeal of a Planning and Zoning Commission decision for a requested variance, dramatically reducing the minimum side yard setback from 50 feet to just 2.87 feet along the Brewers property line, the subject property. The Brewers live to the north of it. That is their property line where the variance would be effective. The PZC denied that variance request because it doesn't meet the standards. The Land Use Committee considered the applicant's appeal and concurred with the PZC, and we hope you agree and ultimately vote no on the applicant's appeal. The PZC correctly decided that the applicant's variance request does not meet the standards. Staff correctly found that the plight of the owner is not due to unique circumstances. The applicant purchased the property in 2012. The applicant erected these structures along the north property line. You'll see on page 72, your board packet in section 13.1A, there's a plat of survey. It shows 2 metal-clad buildings, a metal lean-to, and 5 greenhouses along that north property line on the subject property. There are now 22 greenhouses along that north property line, showing incredible disregard for the county's rules. Staff correctly found by having these structures along the north property line, they have the potential to alter the essential character of the area. The applicant's hardship was self-imposed. It was not caused by any conditions on the property. This will damage the Brewers' property. The PZC saw evidence, saw photos which you can review in the record of the PZC hearing of salt being stored in these structures along the Brewers' property line, leaching into the soil, causing their trees to die off, garbage and equipment being stored within this 3 feet setback along the property line, encroachments onto the Brewers' property. Such a dramatic encroachment onto their property simply isn't appropriate. Plus, the greenhouses aggravate an already difficult stormwater management situation on the property and the adjacent property. The applicant is going to claim that the other neighbors are consenting. It's not true. The Brewers aren't consenting. They're most greatly affected by the requested variances. And neighbor consent isn't one of the standards, and for a very good reason. Your code provides that these variances run with the land. They will last forever, and they're unconditional. They don't have any conditions to address the negative impacts imposed by the proposed variances. And so approval of these variances would exist long after those neighbors move away. So the PZC got it right, the Land Use Committee got it right. The applicant's request doesn't meet the standards. I believe Ken Rewers is also here to follow up with anything that I forgot, if you'll have them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, Kenneth Reavers. Are you on the same case? Yes, sir. Okay. You had a different number in here, but come on down.
My name's Ken Rewers, and I'm the property owner to the north of Mr. Jabay, which is most affected with what he's done. You know, I've been here a number of times already, right? And to have, I hate to say it, to have it tabled again, you know, the committee already voted it down, my interpretation of it, the limited interpretation of it. But like I said, I'm curious as to the damage that I've received from salt barn leaching into my soil, killing my trees on my property. You know, Mr. Jabay ended up digging on my property, taking down part of my fences, my horse fences and everything. And like I said, I don't know what to do anymore, you know. I'm asking, you know, the county board to support me because he had no permits or anything for this stuff. I don't know what else to say, but I'm just kind of frustrated with what's going on. You know, I don't know what the reason for tabling this to go to another month is. I mean, just to say it's going to be tabled, what Mr. Moran said, why? I'm curious. You know, can you answer that? That's all I'm asking.
Mr. Weigel.
Judy Ogala is the one that requested the tabling of it. She's on the committee, and maybe she has some remarks in that regard.
Ms. Ogala. Leave your button alone and I can turn you on.
Touching it. There you go. So I asked to table it so that we could look into this situation further from other things that I spoke with the Land Use Department regarding. And the other county board member of the district also agrees to table it for the month. So we're just going to be tabling it. It will be moving forward to next month. But there's a couple of the things to look into, to consider, and that's why we're tabling it today.
Could you enlighten me to what the other things are?
Well, I'm going to be talking with the Land Use Department about that. And it was, then when the issue came up at County Board, at our Land Use Committee, we didn't have all the information available to us, and we haven't had all the conversation with the Land Use Department that I feel is needed, so we're asking to table it today.
Okay, because like I said, I got pictures of the damage that I received, you know, and I put them in with the packet that was put together for it.
No.
You know.
Yeah, yes, and I will meet with you. I would like to meet with you too. I wasn't able to get your contact information from anywhere.
All right, I'm just hoping for some resolution on this because I don't know where to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewers. Next up is Tyler Jabay. Do you want to speak today?
Hello. My name's Tyler Jabay. I live to the south of Mr. Ruhr's. I've owned the property for about 10 years. When I first bought the land, it was just an open farm field, and when I started to cut the driveway, and now I was 19 years old, Mr. Ruhr's came over angrily asking what I was doing to the property, and I told him that I was just cutting in a driveway, and he was less than pleased and stormed away. So that was my first encounter with him, and not many of them have been positive, but I do own a landscape company. I started right out of high school. The company has grown significantly, and due to the amount of bantering and complaints, I have decided to move my landscape company out of Illinois into Indiana. Last year we paid, I have my notes here, $247,000 in payroll taxes, and with $64,000 in additional state payroll taxes. So I have committed to moving my landscape company out of there. I do own a nursery called State Line Nursery that is to remain there, is what I'm hoping to accomplish. It is a wholesale-only nursery. My property is narrow and deep, so it's 307 feet wide and 1417 deep. So I need about as much land as I can get with the greenhouses that we have. Now, I did get a sign-off. I have 4 neighbors, even though I have 2 neighbors to the north. Mr. Ruhr's property does not go back as far as mine does. Mine goes back an additional, it's about 250 feet. So the greenhouses that are in question do not border his land at all. And I do have signed affidavits from 3 of my 4 neighbors that have been notarized that I submitted in the original meeting that I'm sure are in my file somewhere, stating that they have no objection to the variances being granted. The salt shed and the other barns that they're not permanent at all. They sit on concrete blocks that are literally just red-headed in. They're held down by pieces of rebar and ground anchors. No foundations or anything like that. I've committed to moving those along with my landscape business, and to address the leaching into the soil. That salt shed has been inspected multiple times by multiple Will County representatives, and the salt shed is covered on 3 sides. It is, in the open side is to the south where my building is, and it is paved, and there's interlocking concrete blocks around it that hold it in. So we're not leaching anything into the soil. I'm not trying to be detrimental or anything like that. I'm a landscaper. I'm supposed to make things nice instead of kill them. And that ultimately is my goal. So I've committed to moving those from, those are the buildings that border Mr. Ruhr's property. So I've committed to moving those as soon as I'm going to be moving here. I do have an accepted offer from the city of East Chicago. I have a meeting with them again today at noon to try to hammer out some final details. So ultimately, that's where I'm trying to go. The digging that he said that I did on his property, I worked with the farmer that owns 55 acres to the south of me, who I had originally purchased the land from. There was a broken tile that was right on the border of my property and his property. It's an 8-inch clay tile. It caved in. I worked with the farmer. We patched it, and now all the water is running smooth. So I do apologize that we encroached, but we did not knock over his fence. The fence he's referring to is a very old horse fence that I have never seen horses in. We did knock over 1 fence post that is at the southwest corner of his property. I did replace it with a new one. That was as much damage as I've done to his fence. I'm not trying to cause problems. I'm moving my landscape company to try to eliminate problems. I would just prefer to really have my greenhouses and be able to at least keep one of my businesses, because I do live in the front, so I'm being made out to be a menace of the neighborhood, but I'm not doing anything that, I'm trying to have some kids with my wife, and I wouldn't change anything about You know, if we're making noise at night, I wouldn't change it, you know, just because I'm able to have some babies or whatnot. So I'm not trying to cause problems. I'm literally just trying to expand my business, and which in turn creates revenue for the local areas and creates jobs. But I have to move 55 landscape jobs out of Will County mainly because of this. So that's not something I want, because like I said, I live there, and it's terribly inconvenient for me to commute to East Chicago every day. So in short, hopefully I've addressed everything. If anybody has any questions, they're more than welcome to call me over the next few weeks. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm trying to be as transparent as I can. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak on any zoning cases? Anyone else in the public wants to speak on any zoning cases? Anyone else? Mr. Weigel.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Balich. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Sure. Mayor? Brooks? O'Gallo?
Yes.
Summers? Singer? Moran? Rice? Harris? Trinier? Benefield? Fritz? Gould? Militello? Balich? Frizzlone? Winfrey? Parker? Staley Ferry? Dollinger? Markham? Tumanello? Weigel? Ferry? Corlitis? And Mustis. Thank you.
25 affirmative.
25 affirmative. We are out of public hearing. Mr. Weigel, please continue. Oh, sorry. There you go.
First case is special use permit for firearms dealer in Manhattan. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Mayor. Any discussion? Any discussion? Previous roll by Mr. Ferry, second by Mr. Parker. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Next case is zoning map amendment from A1 to R3. This is in Wilton Township. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Gould. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Rice, second by Ms. Summers. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Resolution 1883, the appeal of the zoning commission. Rather than table out, I'd like to make a motion to send it back to committee. I'll make that motion.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Mayor. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
Our next meeting is May 8th. And that concludes my report.
Thanks, Tom. Next up, Finance, Mr. Frizzlone, Chairman.
Good morning, Will County.
Good morning, Michael.
First up, we have the monthly financial reports to put on file. We have a report from the Illinois Department of Revenue showing sales tax remitted to Will County for the month of January 2018 to be $2,028,339.77. The RTA tax received is $2,370,514.30 for a grand total of $4,398,854.07. And I also have the monthly treasury report dated February 28, 2111. Wow, that's getting ahead. 2018 from Will County Treasurer Steve Weber. I'd like to put both of those on file. And I so move.
Moved by Mr. Frizzlone, second by Ms. Parker. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Okay, if we have some business here, the first up to be 18-84, transferring appropriations between funds and budgeting funds on hand in the county clerk's budget. This is to start our scanning of all the vital records in the department, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Frizzlone, second by Ms. Dollinger. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Rice, second by Mr. Brooks. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
1885-85 is appropriating additional grant funds in Health Department budget for Medical Reserve Corp. Challenge, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Frizzalone, second by Ms. Winfrey. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Markham. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
18-86, transferring and increasing appropriations in various county budgets to fund year-end shortfalls. This is our third and final cleanup for a year-end budget, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Frizzalone, second by Mr. Mayor. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Trainier, second by Ms. Rice. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
And 18-87, authorizing county executive to execute necessary documents for the delinquent tax program, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Frizzalone, second by Mr. Balich. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Tumanello, second by Ms. Ogala. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
That's all the business I have, and our next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for the 1st of May at 10 a.m.
Thank you very much, Michael. Next up, Public Works Transportation Committee, Mr. Gould, Chairman.
Good morning, Mr. Executive.
Good morning, Don.
Good morning, fellow board members. I have 3 items to place on file this morning. First is a public notice of public comment period for proposed issuance of a construction permit and PSD approval at Citgo Petroleum Corporation in Lamont. The second notice is a public notice for a proposed significant modification of the Clean Air Act permit program for PCQ Corporation in Joliet. The third public notice is a renewal of a federally enforceable state operations permit for Hendrickson Bumper and Trim in Crest Hill, Illinois. I move to place those items on file.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Melatello. Any questions? Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
Thank you. I have Resolution 18-88, confirming an award of contract to P.T. Farrow Construction, led on March 21st for Hadley Road from Parker Road to the Cook County line in County Board District 7. I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Balich. Any questions? Any questions? Previous row by Ms. Winfrey, second by Mr. Ferry. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
Resolution 1889, an improvement by the county under the Illinois Highway Code for Hadley Road from Parker Road to the Cook County line using MFT funds. I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Balich. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Dollinger, second by Ms. Parker. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
Resolution 1890, confirming an award of contract to Midwest Fence Corporation, led on March 21st, countywide guardrail maintenance in all county board districts. I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Trainier. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Moran, second by Mr. Markham. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
Resolution 1891, an improvement by the county under the Illinois Highway Code for countywide guardrail in all county board districts using MFT funds. I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Tumanello. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Summers, second by Mr. Ayers. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
Resolution 1892, confirming an award of contract to Tri-State Asphalt, led on March 21st for Florence Road District and County Board District 6. I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Melatello. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Ferry, second by Ms. Summers. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Resolution 1893, authorizing approval of an establishment for altered speed zone 553, County Board District 6. Move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Melatello. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Ogala, second by Mr. Benefield. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Resolution 1894, authorizing the transfer of jurisdiction of Simmerton Road to the Village of Simmerton by the county under the Illinois Highway Code, County Board District 6. Move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Melatello. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Rice, second by Ms. Parker. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Mr. Executive, I wanted to mention that the Highway Department is having an open house on April 26th from 4 to 7 p.m. for the Weber Road study, and that's going to be at the Romeoville Village Hall for anyone who'd like to attend.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Don.
Our next meeting is May 1st at 9 o'clock. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Next up, Judicial Committee, Mr. Benefield, Chairman.
Good morning, Mr. Executive,
Good morning,
fellow board
Aaron.
members. We do not have any items to present to the board this morning. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 1st at 9 a.m., and we hope that all are able to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Public Health Safety Committee, Ms. Ogala, Chairperson.
Good morning, Mr. Walsh and members of the board. I have a couple of items to be placed on file today. The first item to be placed on file is the Will County Veterans Assistance Commission 2017 Governor's Report. I just wanted to note one thing that is really good to hear. In 2017, the Veterans Assistance Commission of Will County was able to assist 5,717 veterans with their needs. So I think that's really great to hear, because all too often we hear about our veterans and they're not being helped. So I'm glad that we have this organization to do that. The second one is our Will County Regional Office of Education Quarterly Report, January 1st, 2018 through March 31st, 2018, submitted by Dr. Sean Walsh, who's our Regional Superintendent of Schools, and I so move to put these reports on file.
Moved by Ms. Ogala, second by Mr. Mayor. Any questions? Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Thank you. Next is Resolution 18-95, amending the Will County Chapter 97 Public Swimming Facility Ordinance, and I so move.
Moved by Ms. Ogala, second by Ms. Dollinger. Any questions? Any questions? Move previous roll call by Ms. Trainier, second by Mr. Harris. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
Next is Resolution 18-96, renewing contracts for dietary and nursing products for Sunny Hill Nursing Home, and I so move.
Moved by Ms. Ogala, second by Ms. Winfrey. Any questions? Any question? Previous roll by Mr. Moran, second by Ms. Parker. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
Next is a Resolution 18-97, renewing contracts for housekeeping supplies for Sunny Hill Nursing Home, and I so move.
Moved by Ms. Ogala, second by Mr. Brooks. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Melatello, second by Ms. Fritz. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Well, that concludes the resolutions for today, but I do want to make everyone aware of our upcoming Hero and Will County Helps Summit that's going to be held on Friday, May 11th. It's from 7:30 in the morning until 12:30 in the afternoon. Will be held at Edwards Hospital Athletic and Events Center at 55 Phelps Avenue in Romeoville. And this year we have several presentations that I think will be really important for everyone to hear. And for me, the most important is from Laura Porter. She's going to be giving a presentation on the adverse childhood experiences and substance use. So those are situations where kids are in when at a young age and how it impacts them later in life. And so I think it'll be very, very beneficial for everyone who is able to attend to hear that. So if you're looking for information, you can also go to www.herohelpsswc.org. And that concludes my report today. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Next up, Legislative Committee.
Mr. Executive, the chairman's not here. We currently don't have a vice chairman. So I don't think there's anything to report, but I will. Someone from the Legislative Committee would like to make any comments today. Open it up, but I don't think they had any business. There will be a report next month. There was a trip to Washington along with the executive's office, and we'll be reporting out on that next month.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Musa. Next up, Capital Improvements Committee, Mr. Tumanello, Chairman.
Good morning, everybody. We have one item to discuss this morning. It's 18-98, authorizing the Will County Executive to amend the contract with Kluber Architects and Engineers to include design engineering services for the new Will County Health Department facility, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Tumanello, moved second by Ms. Winfrey. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Rice, seconded by Ms. Ternier. All in favor say by aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Unfortunately, this month the report did not make the packet, so I'll go through the report real quick, and then hopefully in the future months we'll get that out there. But just to update the entire board on the Will County Public Safety Complex, substantial completion for the specialty equipment vehicle storage / radio lab was April 23rd. Demolition of the old sheriff's facility was completed on April 16th. We are scheduled completion for site work, paving, and landscaping for the entire project, June 15th. With regards to the courthouse, 36 of the 39 trade contracts have now been awarded. Bid openings for the remaining 3 trades will be April 26th of this year. The First Midwest building demolition is 95% complete. Excavation and concrete foundation work is underway. The structural steel erection is scheduled to start on May 21st, so we're going to start seeing the steel hopefully come out of the ground in May. Initial move coordination meeting was held on April 12th, and the building security meeting to be scheduled as soon as possible, so we could report back to the board on that. With regard to the health department, we just authorized the county executive to amend the contract with Kluber for the design work. The design phase kickoff meeting is actually today at 1:30 with members of the health department, Kluber, myself, and Mr. Musis. The scheduled completion of bid docs, we're hoping to get them on the street and get them ready to go by November 2nd of this year, so the project is moving fairly quickly. The new animal control facility, we envision a 6,700 square foot building to be located south of the Will County DOT on Cherry Hill Road. Design completion construction documents are due on July 25th, and the new equipment storage building to be used by WCEMA will be included in the scope. And that's all I have.
That's quite a bit. Thank you, Ray. Next up, Executive Committee, Mr. Mustis, Chairman.
Mr. Executive.
Morning, Jim.
Morning, Board. My first item today is 1899, setting salary for the members of the Will County Board. I'll move to approve the resolution that is brought forward, which keeps the current compensation in place going forward. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Balich. Any questions? Discussion? Ms. Trenier?
Good morning.
Morning. Jackie?
I will not be supporting this resolution as written. I've been talking with a number of other county board members, listening to their difficulties of being able to attend all of board meetings and still hold down their job because employers are not cooperating. I've talked to one board member that lost out on a position, another one that was forced out of a position, and I myself actually had to make the choice to resign from my job because they were unwilling to accommodate my schedule to be here. This is difficult. You know, you want to serve your community, you want to volunteer, you want to be involved, but you know, you also still have to balance that with the needs of your family. It's been opined that we have a plethora of candidates, that there's never a lack of candidates, so the salary shouldn't be an issue. However, in my area, no one ran against me in the primary, and to my knowledge, no one will be running against me in the general. So clearly, there are people that are not looking to run for these positions in certain areas. I do think, since it's been 16 years since we've evaluated the salary for this position, that it is time to increase the compensation, not in the form of a raise, but just looking at reevaluating what the position is worth. We have been under a number of extra demands, I would say extra demands, because we are building a courthouse, a public health facility, a sheriff's facility. We're doing a lot of infrastructure improvement. That takes more time just to read the documents, even if you don't have time to attend all the meetings. Time spent at home even reviewing what happened at prior meetings by watching videos of those meetings. The public hearings. I listened to this morning's CMAP presentation, and based on the 2050 road plan from CMAP, they're talking about holding 10 public hearings in our community. And I don't believe myself that I can be as effective a county board member if I am under financial constraints and cannot attend meetings that are held for the benefit not only of the public, but also for the board members to help make intelligent, informed decisions. So I am not in favor of the motion as it is written. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Executive. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. For the last 16 years, every 2 years, this discussion come up, and my comments are repetitive. I talked about it in executive where discussion should take place. I talked about it in my caucus where discussion should take place, and so I know it would be repetitive to some of you all. But of the 16 years, there have not been a raise. I've been on this board for almost 10 years. And every 2 years, I have brought this issue up, and I know many people in this room heard that before. And I think that where we are right now, 16 years later, still no raise, I could not support this current resolution 1899 as is presented, and I do believe there ought to be some further discussion. Since we only have one more, there's the only opportunity before the 2-year period expires, but there should be an increase, and I can't support it as it is once again. Thank you.
Ms. Winfrey?
It was 09?
Thank you, Mr. Executive. I also will not be supporting this resolution, and my issue is that I understand that people serve voluntarily. It is their choice. That's true. It is also their responsibility to provide the best possible service for the community. That is very hard to do when people are not compensated appropriately. I would not support this amendment because it does not recognize that there has been a change over the 16 years. First of all, the salary has not been reset since that 16-year mark. Also, the amount of requirements for people in these positions has changed significantly over that time period and will change even more going forward, which is the responsibility of board members in the best interest of the community, that they do more. And I would want to see this position, this salary position reset.
Just if I may, just so the salary that's in place now was frozen in 09. Just so you got that. It hasn't been 16 years. It's been quite a while, but it's been 09. So
I was just a little child 16 years ago.
I understand. I understand. So just to get the time frame correct.
Thank you. I stand corrected.
Any other comments? Any other comments? Any other questions? Mr. Frizzlone?
I'm just curious if the minority leader wants to make a motion to amend the motion.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir. Is that in order now?
You can if you like.
Okay. Mr. Executive?
Yes.
I would like to set the salary for $18.99 for Will County board members. Come on.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Let me start all over. It has been 16 years ago.
We're playing.
Okay. I would like to amend the motion and ask to adjust the salary for $18.99 for county board members at $28,000 annually.
$28,000.
Correct.
Got that. Second by Ms. Trainier. Any discussion? Any discussion? Mr. Weigel?
I recently read an article in the Chicago Tribune about why people are leaving Illinois. and it's because of high taxes. And they pointed out that the Illinois state representatives, their salary is $68,000. In Indiana, the state representative is $25,000. So the taxes are considerably cheaper in Indiana because they're not paying out these high salaries that Illinois is paying out. So I would not be in favor of changing the salary for the Will County board members, which would be higher than what the state representatives in Indiana are earning right now. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Markham?
My point is just simply that if people are having problems getting time off of work, and I know it's been stated in executive committee that people are losing money, I think that this board should look to moving more of our meetings into the evening so that members don't have to take off time from their day job. It'll also make it easier for members of the community to come to our meetings, to speak to us. So I've struggled with this, but I'm also against setting a higher raise until we discuss, or a higher wage until we discuss moving meetings to the evening to see if that helps alleviate some of the stress that it puts on people's day jobs.
Thank you. Ms. Trainier?
I'd also like to mention that.
You know, people, if you leave the button alone, I'm pushing the button, you're pushing the button.
Don't touch the button, guys.
Don't tell me we're pushing my button.
I'm not getting into this, but whose button is bigger?
Have you guys had that training that we just went over? Are you getting that training already?
We're just speaking about buttons, you know?
Resetting the parameters.
And he's resetting the parameters. I would also like to remind my fellow county board members that we actually did take a reduction in the total compensation package for this position when the pension program was eliminated for county board members. So I think this is a salary adjustment. I don't think of this as a raise. It has been since 2009. I did take a look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics this week, and overall between 2013 and 2010 and 2017, average wages have risen quite a bit in the state of Illinois. And again, you know, every time that we volunteer more time, we're even losing a higher wage for the time that we're spending here. I understand the situation in Indiana, and that's for Indiana voters to decide. Their cost of living is different there, their industry is different, their workplaces are different. Perhaps their demands on government officials for time are also different. I don't know. I don't live in Indiana, and I don't serve on any elected position in Indiana, so I would hesitate to compare us to Indiana. What I did compare us to was what the compensation was for DuPage County and Lake County, the counties around us, and we are significantly lower in the salary category.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Frizzalone?
Yeah, I just want to make a correction. When Jackie said we got lost the pension, not all of us lost. Several of us didn't take it from day one after being elected, so it wasn't part of our compensation.
And I meant the board as a whole.
Yeah.
Just like some of us don't take the health insurance,
Yeah.
it is part of the compensation package, even if we don't take it.
Madam Clerk, now this is on Mr. Brooks' amendment. And would you?
I'm ready. Mayor? Brooks?
Yes.
O'Gala?
No.
Summers?
No.
Singer?
No.
Moran? Rice? Harris? Trainier?
Yes.
Benefield?
No.
Fritz?
No.
Gould?
No.
Militello?
No.
Balich?
No.
Frizzalone?
No.
Winfrey?
Yes.
Parker?
No.
Staley Ferry?
No.
Dollinger? No. Markham? No. Tumanello? No. Weigel? No. Ferry?
Yes.
Colitis?
No.
And Mustis?
No.
Thank you.
Six affirmative, 18 negative, 1 abstention.
6 affirmative, 18 negative, amended, failed. And now I'm back to you, Mr. Mustis.
I would motion that we move on the original resolution, and I'll move to approve it.
And well, it's already moved to approve.
I already have a motion out there, we just need to vote on it.
Yeah.
Call roll.
Mayor?
Yes.
Brooks?
Yes.
Ogala? Yes. Summers? Singer?
Yes.
Moran? Yes. Rice? Yes. Harris?
Yes.
Trainier?
Yes.
Benefield?
Yes.
Fritz? Gould?
Yes.
Militello?
Yes.
Balich?
Yes.
Frizzalone?
Yes.
Winfrey?
No.
Parker?
Yes.
Staley Ferry?
Yes.
Dollinger?
Yes.
Markham?
Yes.
Tumanello?
Yes.
Weigel?
Yes.
Ferry?
Yes.
Colitis?
Yes.
And Mustis?
Yes.
Thank you.
Nancy, can you change mine to no, please?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
23 affirmative, 2 negative.
23 affirmative, 2 negative. Motion is carried.
The next three resolutions set the compensation for countywide offices, the county clerk, the sheriff, and the treasurer. All three I will bring individually, but all the resolutions are at the current compensation. There's no increases reflected in these resolutions from the prior compensation, just so everyone knows. So I have 18,100, setting the salary of the Will County Clerk. I'll move for approval.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Mayor. Questions? Beth? Rice?
I'm making a motion to amend 18100, raising the salary of the Will County Clerk to $100,000. I understand it's been almost a decade since there's any increase in pay. I also understand that the clerk is continually increasing responsibilities due to change in election law and population. We've heard from our own fabulous county clerk about these growing responsibilities on a regular basis. Additionally, and most relevant today, as a county, we are obligated to ensure that the person who is leading the county department that ensures integrity in our elections has the technology skills that ensure secure elections. This involves technology. Technology skills cost money. Again, almost a decade since the last increase, increased population served, and required technological skills warrant this position be adequately compensated. I move to amend the county clerk's salary to $100,000.
To $100,000.
Correct.
Second.
Moved and second by Ms. Winfrey. Any discussion? Ms. Ogala.
Thank you. I'm really glad, Beth, that you brought up the issue of integrity. I want to just thank Nancy for doing such a great job as our county clerk, having such high integrity and standards. You can't find anything in her history where she was not having the highest amount of integrity. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
For all your hard work.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? This is on the amendment.
Yes.
Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Sure. Mayor?
No.
Brooks?
Yes.
Ogala?
No.
Summers?
Yes.
Singer?
No.
Moran? Rice?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Trainier?
Yes.
Benefield?
No.
Fritz?
No.
Gould?
No.
Militello?
No.
Balich?
No.
Frisellone?
No.
Winfrey?
Yes.
Parker?
No.
Staley Ferry?
No.
Dollinger?
No.
Markham?
Yes.
Tumanello? Weigel?
No.
Ferry?
No.
Coditis?
No.
And Mustis.
No.
Eight affirmative, 17 negative.
3 affirmative, how many, miss?
8 affirmative.
8, okay. Motion is denied. You got a question, Ms. Trainier?
Yes.
Thank you for pushing my button, Larry.
Yeah.
We're gonna send you back to the training.
I'm sure that this is a pretty moot point, but I'm gonna speak to it anyway. I would also be in support of raising our sheriff's salary. I'm not gonna make a motion.
We need to finish the clerk first. Let us finish the clerk.
Okay, fine.
We need to vote on the clerk, Larry. The
Yeah.
amendment failed. Now we need to vote on what's on the floor.
It's on the floor and second, 18,100.
Yes. Call the roll?
For the county clerk. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Sure. Mayor?
Yes.
Brooks?
Yes.
O'Gala?
Yes.
Summers?
No.
Singer?
Yes.
Moran? Rice?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Trainier?
No.
Benefield?
Yes.
Fritz? Gould?
Yes.
Militello?
Yes.
Balich?
Yes.
Frisellone?
Yes.
Winfrey?
No.
Parker?
Yes.
Staley Ferry?
Yes.
Dollinger?
Yes.
Markham?
No.
Tumanello?
Yes.
Weigel?
Yes.
Ferry? Coditis?
Yes.
And Mustis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hold up.
Yep.
21 affirmative, 4 negative.
21 affirmative, motion has carried.
Okay, next we have Resolution 18101, setting the salary of the Will County Sheriff. Here again, there is no proposed increase in the salary, and I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Missick, second by Mr. Mayor. Any discussion? Mr. Brooks?
If you like, Ms. Trenier was before me, and all due respect.
No.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Again, on the sheriff, I have some forms, I've looked at some numbers, and by comparison, all the things that were said earlier, in the world I live in, when everybody already knows the facts, I call it preaching to the choir, because you already know that. But I have some written facts where the sheriff of counties all around us that are increasingly more receive more. So, to make a long story short, my recommendation is this: is that sheriff salary be set at $125,000 a year.
Are you making that into a motion?
Yes, sir, I am.
Amendment?
The amendment, yes.
What was the motion?
$125,000 annually for the sheriff.
Moved by Mr. Brooks, as 125,000. Second by Ms. Trainier. Any discussion? Ms. Winfrey?
Thank you, Mr. Executive. I just want to comment on the sheriff's salary. I understand our resistance to raising salaries, to adjusting salaries, however you want to phrase that. But I'm aware also that for Will County, that out of the 102 counties in the state of Illinois, Will County has more unincorporated population than any other of the 102 counties, including Cook County, which means that our sheriff's department polices more people than any other county out of the 102, and I think that warrants the increase. So that means that this department has more work, more responsibility than any of the 102 counties in the state, and that to me requires the 125 salary.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Sure. Mayor?
We're voting on
increase for
We're
the
voting
sheriff.
on the amendment proposed by Bob Captain,
No.
Mr. Brooks, for 125.
Correct, that would be no.
Okay, thank you. Brooks?
Yes.
Ogala?
Yes.
Summers?
Yes.
Singer?
No.
Moran?
Yes.
Rice?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Trainier?
Yes.
Benefield?
No.
Fritz?
No.
Gould?
No.
Militello?
No.
Balich?
No.
Frizzalone?
No.
Winfrey?
Yes.
Parker?
No.
Staley Ferry?
No.
Dollinger?
No.
Markham?
Yes.
Tumanello? Weigel?
No.
Ferry?
Yes.
Colitis?
No.
And Mustis.
No.
Thank you.
Ten affirmative, 15 negative.
10 affirmative, 15 negative. Amendment motion fails. Mr. Mistis? No, no, we got.
Now you gotta vote it.
We got, so we have got a motion and a second on the floor. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor? Yes. Brooks?
Yes.
Ogala?
Yes.
Summers?
No.
Singer?
Yes.
Moran? Rice?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Trainier?
No.
Benefield?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Militello?
Yes.
Balich?
Yes.
Frizzalone?
Yes.
Winfrey?
No.
Parker?
Yes.
Staley Ferry? Dollinger?
Yes.
Markham?
No.
Tumanello?
Yes.
Weigel?
Yes.
Ferry?
No.
Colitis?
Yes.
And Mustis.
Sure.
Thank you.
Affirmative, 5 negative.
20 affirmative, 5 negative. Motion has carried.
Next, we have Resolution 18102, setting the salary for the Will County Treasurer. I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Eustace, second by Mr. Mayor. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Sure. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Thank you. Brooks?
Yes.
Ogala?
Yes.
Summers?
Yes.
Singer?
Yes.
Moran? Rice?
Yes.
Pardon me? Okay, thank you. Harris?
Yes.
Trainier?
No.
Benefield?
Yes.
Fritz? Gould?
Yes.
Militello?
Yes.
Balich?
Yes.
Frizzalone?
Yes.
Winfrey?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Staley Ferry?
Yes.
Dollinger?
Yes.
Markham?
No, for the same reason that I voted for the other two.
Okay, thank you. Tumanello? Weigel?
Yes.
Ferry?
Yes.
Colitis?
Yes.
And Mustis. Thank you.
23 affirmative, 2 negative.
23 affirmative, 2 negative. Motion has carried.
Okay, next, we have Resolution 18103, authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement with Constellation Energy for electricity. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Mayor. Any discussion? Mr. Frizzalone?
I'd just like to comment on this. I am going to vote yes on this. I know we have to take baby steps sometime. I would like to challenge us to have a goal next year that we move to 100% green. This will take us to 50%. I think Will County has been a leader in many things. We're a leader in the fight against opioids. We're a leader in the building projects we're doing and the freight studies that we're doing. I think we need to be a leader in our green initiatives. We just had a report, which I think we're going to do a committee of the whole at a future date to find about all the green things that we've done here and all the money we've saved because of it. But once we get to 100% green, it allows us to become an EPA green power partner. Now, who are green power partners? The likes of Apple and Google and other companies like that. if we want to continue to attract the companies we say we want, the technology companies, not just logistic companies, we need to get more and more branding and designations that we're a leader in those kinds of initiatives, and especially with green. So while I will be voting for this, 50%, I think we should put it on the docket for next year, that we take a look and see if we can move to 100% next year, so we can brand ourselves as probably the first community in this area, and maybe the state, Sam's going to check on that, to be 100% green in our energy spend. Thank you.
Just to give that a little explanation, in the resolution, in our agreement, 50% of our power that we'll be purchasing comes from renewable energies. Now, there could be other clean energies that are in that mix that are above that 50%, but this will guarantee that 50% of our power source comes from renewable energy. So, Mr. Executive,
Okay.
call the motion, perhaps?
Mr. Benefield? Mr. Builder?
Thank you, Mr. Executive. I will be voting no on this particular resolution, and I just want to let you know why. I'm concerned about taking the step from roughly 12% to 50%. I think that's a large step. I understand that we want to continue to move forward with green energy. I'm in total support of that. I feel that based under the 3-year term that we are executing, if we jumped from 12 to roughly 25, we have the opportunity and the option to increase that annually as we choose. And at the end of 3 years, if we felt that it was beneficial to the taxpayers here of Will County, I would be willing to be at 50%. But to take a step from 12 to 50, in my opinion, is a large step. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Mr. Gould?
I am not in support of 100%. We had this discussion at committee, and my reason was because Will County is a major producer of nuclear power, specifically at Braidwood Units 1 and 2. They employ a lot of Will County residents. Illinois is the largest producer of nuclear power in the country. A lot of our residents also work at Dresden and Grundy County. We took a look at our taxes. I want to point out that with the combined tax bills, to all the taxing bodies, Exelon Generation paid $25,770,120, of which the county's portion from Exelon was $2,723,844. That's quite an investment in Will County. I think it's time that we need to look at that. They employ a lot of contractors and tradesmen every time they have an outage. And ladies and gentlemen, we need to take care of our own. This company's made a substantial investment in Will County, and we should continue to be a purchaser of nuclear power. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Good comments. Mr. Rainier?
I was just going to say that I agreed with Mr. Frizzalone. I think we should be moving toward this 100%, and I like the idea of putting it on our agenda for next year to look to increase the amount. I think that we need to protect our planet, and renewable energy is the best way to go for that, and this is going to save our county money as well. So it's a win-win. Thank you.
Mr. Frizzalone?
I just want to make one more comment. I do support what Don says. We want to take care of our own. But just so everybody knows, the contract that we're signing with Constellation Company is owned by Exelon.
Okay, can we vote? I call the question.
Any other comments? Call the roll.
Okay, thank you. Mayor?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Brooks? Yes. Ogala? No. Summers? Yes. Singer? No. Moran? Yes. Rice? Yes. Harris? Yes. Trainier?
Yes.
Benefield? No. Fritz? Yes. Gould? No. Militello? Yes. Balich? No. Frizzalone?
Yes.
Winfrey?
Yes.
Parker?
Are we voting on 50 or 100?
50.
50%.
Staley Ferry?
Yes.
Dollinger?
Yes.
Markham?
Yes.
Tumanello?
No.
Weigel?
Yes.
Ferry?
Yes.
Colitis?
No.
And Mustis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Affirmative, 8 negative.
17 affirmative, 8 negative. Resolution as carried.
Okay, next I have item 7, which is Resolution 18-114. It's out of order with the resolution numbers, but this also deals with the purchase of our natural gas. There's quite a bit of savings for us. I think over the life of the 3-year contract, we're projecting savings to be being close to $400,000, which is pretty substantial. The only other thing I would ask is, Mary, are you there? The state's attorney's, there you are. Okay, Phil. The state's attorney's office was still taking a look at the contract. I think we can go forward. Everything looks...
Correct. We have just minor changes. As long as there's nothing substantial, you can pass it with the stipulation that it's subject to our...
Yes, okay, which is in the resolution. It's subject to the state's attorney's approval. So I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Mayor. Any discussion? Any discussion? Madam Clerk, call the roll again.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Brooks?
Yes.
Ogala? Yes. Summers? Yes. Singer?
Yes.
Moran? Yes. Rice? Yes. Harris? Trainier?
Yes.
Benefield? Yes. Fritz? Yes. Gould? Yes. Militello?
Yes.
Balich?
Yes.
Frizzalone?
Yes.
Winfrey? Yes. Parker? Staley Ferry? Dollinger?
Yes.
Markham?
Yes.
Tumanello? Weigel?
Yes.
Ferry?
Yes.
Colitis?
Yes.
And Mustis.
Yes.
Thank you.
23 affirmative.
23 affirmative. Motion has carried.
Okay, next I have Resolution 18-104, authorizing wraparound insurance for the Community Health Center. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Frizzalone. Any discussion? Any discussion? Motion of previous roll call by Mr. Ferry, second by Ms. Summers. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
Resolution 18-105, authorizing intergovernmental agreement with Champaign County for electronic recycling. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Ms. Ogala. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Dollinger, second by Mr. Trainier. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Next we have
Would you like to be a yes on the motion 18-105?
And Harris, too. And Ken, too.
Mr. Harris?
Thank you.
Okay.
We got him.
Next I have Resolution 18-106, authorizing intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Lamont for access to the countywide radio system. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Mayor. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Winfrey, second by Mr. Markham. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
18-107, supplemental resolution for the payment of the county engineer's salary. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Gould. Any question? Any questions? Previous roll call by Ms. Militello, second by Ms. Parker. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
The only other thing I might mention on 106, it has nothing to do with our current engineer. This has to do with the former engineer and his pension. So I just thought I would mention that. So the next one, rather. I did 107, right?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, okay. So 18-108, authorizing amendment to the technical services agreement with the Regional Transportation Authority. I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Mayor. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Rice, second by Ms. Fritz All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
By the way, that last resolution was, they had the wrong date then, so it was really minor. Next, we have 18109, establishing the finances of the new animal control facility temporary loan. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Frizzalone. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Dollinger, second by Mr. Balich. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Next, we have 18110, designating Capital Improvements Committee as owner's agent for the animal control facility project. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Brooks. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Moran, second by Ms. Summers. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Next, we have Resolution 111, replacement hires to the Laraway Communication Center 911 Department. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Gould. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll call by Mr. Tuminello, second by Ms. Dollinger. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Next, we have replacement hires for the Land Use Department. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Brooks. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Summers, second by Mr. Markham. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Next, we have replacement hires for Sunny Hill Nursing Home. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Ms. Winfrey. Any questions? Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Ferry, second by Ms. Parker. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Our next committee meeting for the Executive Committee will be May 3rd at 10 a.m. Next, I have the appointments of the County Executive. I will make a motion to remove from table the appointment to Metra.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Frizzalone. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
I'll make a motion to approve the appointment to Metra.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Sure. Mayor?
No.
Brooks?
Yes.
Ogala? No. Summers? Yes. Singer?
No.
Moran?
No.
Rice?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Trainier?
Yes.
Benefield?
No.
Fritz?
No.
Gould?
Yes.
Militello?
No.
Balich?
No.
Frizzalone?
No.
Winfrey?
Yes.
Parker?
Abstain?
Staley Ferry?
Yes.
Dollinger?
Abstain?
Markham? Pardon me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Tuminello?
No.
Weigel?
No.
Ferry?
Yes.
Coditis?
No.
And Mustis?
No.
Ten affirmative, 13 negative, 2 abstentions.
10 affirmative. Motion has been denied.
Next, I have the appointments to the Investment Board. I'm going to make a motion to remove it. It has nothing to do with the people who are coming forward. They're going to bring them all. This is at the request of Workforce and the Executive's Office. They're going to bring all the names forward at the same time. Is that pretty much what it is, Nick? Okay. So I'll make a motion for right now just to remove the appointment to Workforce.
Make a motion to
Move it from the agenda.
Remove it from the agenda.
Second.
We need a roll. We need a clean roll.
Moved by Mr. Mustis.
Oh, we tabled that. I'm sorry, that's right, it was tabled.
You
I'll make a
table
motion
it?
to remove it from table.
Remove it from the table.
Yeah, we're removing it from
Okay.
table.
Table.
Mr.
You're
Executive.
moving to remove from the table. And second by Mr. Mayor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried.
Now I'll make a motion to remove the appointment, it'll be brought back with recommendations for all the, a number of other workforce.
So you moving to send it back to committee, or?
Well, actually, Mr. Executive, I would just remove it. It goes back to your office to being brought back. But my understanding is you'll be bringing back a number of appointments from workforce.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
Second that. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
Don't we need a new roll call? Because all those people voted no.
Oh.
We need a new roll call now.
Oh.
We need a new roll call.
Oh, okay.
Mayor?
Mayor call. Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Roll call.
Brooks?
Yes.
Ogala? Summers? Yes? Okay, thank you. Singer? Moran? Because there were so many negatives that we had to have a clean roll call.
Well, while we're removing it, yeah, Don, it's at the request of the executive's office and the workforce. You know, they're going to bring all the names forward at the same time, I guess.
Yes, thank you. Rice?
Correct. Yes.
Moran said yes. Rice? Harris? Trainier? Benefield? Fritz? Gould? Militello? Balich? Vizalone? Winfrey? Parker? Staley Ferry? Dollinger? Markham? Tumanello? Weigel? Ferry? Colitis? And Mustis.
Yes.
Thank you.
25 affirmative.
25 affirmative, the motion has been carried.
Next, we have appointments to boards and commissions. The Fire Protection Districts of Shanahan, Elwood, Manhattan, Monee, Northwest Homer, Rockdale, Washington, Eastmoreland Street Lighting District, and I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, seconded by Mr. Frizzalone. Any questions? Any questions? Any question? Mr. Trainier, previous roll call, second by Mr. Markham. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
I will. Thank you.
Mr. Executive, that concludes my report today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mustis. Next up, public speaker. We got one public speaker that wants to talk. Dr. Hall. Dr. Hall.
You released. We released.
Good morning to everyone. I am Dr. Nakia Hall. I am, sorry I'm short. Thank you. I am a resident of Will County, Eastern Will County. I am elected school board member. I serve on the Crete-Monee School District Board. I have been on that board for 9 years, and I am the veteran board member on the board, as well as the youngest. So I come before you today because as a community member, one who's involved in the school system, and also I have a nonprofit where we do a lot of community outreach, I am concerned with the lack of social services in Eastern Will County. We have families who are in desperate need of services, and we have families who have issues and barriers to coming all the way out this way to receive those services. I myself have traveled this way to attend some wonderful summits, workshops. I most recently was out this way on the suicide workshop that was conducted at the Workforce Center. However, there are a lot of people on the eastern side of Will County that cannot make that drive and come out this way. So I'm here to make a plea to the board. I'm not sure of the efforts that have been made to bring services out that way. I just wanted to share with you some of the things that I am aware of that our families are dealing with. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of, we've had 3 recent suicides in our school district within the last year and a half. And that has caused a concern in our area with our families in regards to our students and the issues that they are facing. We also have families that are in needs of jobs. I heard you all talk about earlier also about April being the Fair Housing Month. We have families that are in need of housing. We have veterans that are in need of services. Someone mentioned earlier a summit that's going to be talking about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. Our students are dealing with traumatic experiences. I've been pushing on my board for us to be more aware of those experiences with our students. Students are acting out of those traumatic experiences, and we are seeing an increase in expulsions, suspensions, alternative school placements. That's an issue that we're dealing with in Crete-Monique School District. That's an issue that I am working tirelessly to help our district understand why our children are behaving and reacting the way that they are reacting. However, our families need support. They need support in dealing with mental health issues with our students. And also, just to let you guys know that Crete-Monique School District, we're at about 70% low-income population. And I don't need to tell you really what that brings and how that affects our families. I'm sure you can imagine that. So I just wanted to, let you know that we are dealing with families that can't afford many services. They cannot afford to travel. And if we had more satellite offices and we brought more of our programs that way, I think it would greatly benefit that population. Sometimes we feel a little left out on that end. And so I just wanted to take the time as an elected official, as well as one who is involved in the community, to come to make a plea to you all to greatly consider bringing some of these things out that way. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
I recommend that you make arrangements. We have a health committee, Judy O'Gall as chairperson, and you're welcome to come before the committee anytime and bring your issues and see what we can do and start from the bottom and work up. Okay?
Thank you. And I did want to say too, I'm not just here to talk about the problems. Lori knows me. I'm all about helping and bringing solutions. I'm involved. I'm on my state rep, Anthony DeLucas. I chair his education committee. I am the division chair for the Illinois Association of School Boards 3 Rivers Division, which encompasses most of Will County school boards. So I'm willing to lend whatever assistance I can as well, and I will be connecting with Ms.
O'Galla. Yeah.
O'Galla. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for.
Maybe you two can hook up, Judy, after meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
We'll get the ball rolling and see what we can do together.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thanks for you coming in.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public wish to speak? Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Anyone else? Comments from our majority leader, Mr. Mayor.
Do you want to do county board first,
county
Mr.
board.
Executive?
Okay, county board people. Mr. Corralias.
Mr. Tim.
Bingo, you got it. I didn't want to touch that button, Larry.
That's right. That's
Thank you, Mr. Executive. Recently in Judicial Committee, we have had a discussion relating to school safety in our community, and Chairman Benefield held a special meeting in our committee discussing ways to be proactive in addressing violence in our schools. Lots of good conversation took place. How can we work together? That being the county, the school boards, the state and local government, to support our schools in seeking solutions. How do we continue to dialogue with one another as leaders in our community? So I discussed this with local rep Mark Batnick and local superintendent in the township of Plainfield. And I put on each of your desks some information from State Representative Mark Batnick is holding a meeting on May 1st. He is hosting a presentation on Rachel's Challenge. Rachel Scott was the first victim in the Columbine massacre. Her father will be coming in to discuss how Rachel's Challenge organization can be one way to help us and address our objectives. And please, this is an extension to everybody here, please consider attending if you can. We really do, one thing we found out at our meeting, we really do need cross-governmental communication. One thing that we found out is many oftentimes we don't know the jurisdiction and what we can do, how we can do, and where we can do it. So one of the objectives of this is to get us to basically cross-pollinate with each other to take a look at these needs. Reach out also to your school superintendents, administrators, et cetera. As your guests, we have Plainfield 202 representatives coming, Oswego 308 officials attending, local township, obviously Batnick and anybody here that would be willing to. This will address anything from internal bullying to external threats. School safety must be addressed by those in leadership. I hope that I'll see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Miss Summers.
Thank you, Executive. I want to first thank Dr. Hall for coming out here and speaking. It's an issue that I've been working on with her as well, as we just seem to have an uprise and actually have a higher percentage, especially with mental health and suicide issues out in our side of the county. I want her to know that our county health department and Sue Olenek will be happy to speak with her as well, as Sue has reached out to me, to see what we can do more so out on the eastern side of the county. And again, I want to thank her because she does work with those kids every single day. She has totally dedicated her life to that, and I want to give her total support.
Thank you. Ms. Rice.
Mine is more of a request than a comment. I am hoping that I can request to add as an agenda item for discussion purposes the scheduling of county meetings. I'm not necessarily advocating for something, but I think it's time that county board members have a discussion, staff members and other people have an opportunity to weigh in on it, and we just talk about our current scheduling and see if what we're doing now really meets the needs of the county best. So I'd like just to make that official request going forward.
Okay. Well, Mr. Minister.
Beth, we will look at that after the November election. When the board reorganizes, they do set committee meeting times. That would probably be the more appropriate time to discuss it, and we will bring it up. So,
I think from having been on the board in the past after November elections, I see that it's just a continuation.
Speak into the mic, Beth.
Okay.
Please.
All right. I think from in the past, being a county board member that came on after elections, there's a scramble, to assign people to committees, and I don't think that that's a real good time to discuss the timing of committees. I'm looking for a time at the appropriate committee where we talk about it. I'm not advocating for it, but I am suggesting that we take some time to look at it. And I'm making this request because I'm making it officially here on the board floor, because I have tried in the past to have this discussion with no movement on it. So I don't trust that in November that it would happen.
okay. But we can have a discussion. I guess what I'm trying to get across is we wouldn't change it.
Yes, that's why I wanted to emphasize for discussion purposes only.
Yeah.
With no intent to change, and I'm not advocating for a change. I want to talk about it, and I want staff members to be able to weigh in as well.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Tumanello.
Thank you. I'm just going to add something to what Ms. Rice just said, then I'd like to bring up my original comment. If we're going to have a discussion, I would like to also know the financial impact of potentially moving the meetings. We did this in the village of New Lenox when I was a board member there, and when I was quite surprised at the amount of comp time that our staff and our department heads had acquired by coming in at night, working in the evening, and there was a pretty large financial impact to us. So I would like to, at least if we're going to have that discussion, I would like to know all the pieces of the puzzle. Lastly, I just want to give a shout out to Sue and her entire team at the health department. Well, you know, a lot of people look at the health clinic and the health department and they think that some people have a stigma, maybe, you know, the types of individuals that it serves, et cetera. But just recently, I had a very white-collar family of 5, very well-to-do family. One had a medical situation and a medical history. And there was an issue with when he transferred a job with his COBRA and the insurance, and he was left as a severe diabetic without insulin, without the necessary items he needed for simple survival. And he called me in a panic and asked, you know, you're my county board rep, is there anything I can do? And I said, well, I would like you to contact our health department. They got in touch with the health department, and they were phenomenal. They helped this individual through his lapsed period with the insurance. And I just wanted to make mention of that because I want everyone to understand that as county board members, if there's anybody in your district that has a situation, that the health department is available for us, the health clinic. And I learned quite a bit watching this individual and his family go through the process. And I was quite impressed with the professionalism and the guidance that they gave this family. And quite frankly, the help that they were able to give him. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ogala.
Thank you. I would like to just reiterate what Ray said, and just know that the health department serves residents of Will County from every aspect of life, every corner of the county, and they do a great job at assisting it and also keeping it confidential so that somebody's neighbor is not aware of any of the issues that they tackle in the health department. So they do a great job, and I'm very happy to serve as the chair of Public Health and Safety. What I wanted to comment on of my own was I wanted to explain why I voted no for the Metro Board. I said as a board, we need to widen the area from which we typically look to appoint a board member. I find all too often we select someone from the Joliet, New Lenox, or Bolingbrook areas, and I believe we have qualified residents from other areas of the county that are often overlooked. I think that's something we need to consider, we need to look at, and every one of us has somebody we might consider putting forward. It just seems those are the areas I always find we're approving to appoint board members, and they're always from specific areas. So I'd like us to hopefully as a whole come up with more candidates to serve, and different candidates, because I also find some people serve on the same person serves on board after board after board for whatever reason that is. And I think the more opportunity we give to our residents, the better we are, and we have a broader group of people to choose from, and they have more time to serve if they're on only one board versus 4 or 5 boards. Thank you.
Any other county board member would like to speak? Now to our majority leader, Mr. Mayor.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We have had a very long morning, starting with CMAP coming in and giving us a presentation on a lot of the stuff that we knew that is important to our region with the roads, and so appreciate all the work that we've done here. A lot of conversation has been on our education and mental health. So just to let folks know, we do have April Awareness Month here. We do have, besides the ones that we recognized earlier, is Will County recognizing April as the Autism Awareness Month. And interestingly enough, it's also National Landscape Architecture Month. Just thought you might want to know that as we go forward with taking the young man back into the committee for discussion, as well as Community Service Month. And from a community service standpoint, I mean, I don't know that I would get an argument that most of us believe that what we do here on the county board is a community service. It's not a primary job for any one of us. And it's nice that we all do get a little bit of additional dollars as we do our job here on a regular basis, and it's nice to know what you're getting when you first come into it. So I'm glad we're able to get that discussion done today with the setting of the salaries, and just to let folks know that this really is a community service. And April also is Safety in Schools Month. And we've had a lot of discussion here at the very end about schools and what we need to do now to make sure that our kids are safe. Being someone that's been involved in education for over 30 years, safety in schools has to be a primary discussion, and recognizing that idea of mental health issues in our schools is absolutely imperative, because as we all know, people kill people, people get bullied, people go in and make the challenges that we have in our schools not safe. It's not anything else, and sometimes they just need to be listened to. They need the supports, they need to have someone that they can go talk to when there are issues, and they need treatment. So being able to get mental health services for our students is extremely important. With that, you will know that May, we will recognize May as Children's Mental Health Awareness Month. So as we come forward here, know that the whole month of May is to recognize that, and hopefully Ms. Ogala can have some conversations with the counterparts and the young lady that came up and talked, and see what we could do out there in Eastern Will County. And with that, I hope that winter is over soon, that the snows have stopped, and once we hit 50 this weekend, that it will continue to go up from there. Thank you, Mr. Executive.
Next up is our Minority Leader, Mr. Brooks.
Good afternoon, Mr. Executive and ladies and gentlemen. I will begin by telling you what I tell my church every Sunday morning, and that is my sermon will be short. Let me first of all thank Erica for our county board office. I had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. She was very helpful. Thank you again to the legislative body for allowing me to go, and I'll have more to say about that in discussion about the content of that trip in the legislative committee on next month. Want to thank all of the county board members for their discussion on the pay raises. For the last 10 years, I have raised this issue, and I made amendments, but in the past, I never got a second, so I feel victorious in somewhat. Today, at least I got a second. Thank you very much. And lastly, I want to send my blessings to our Chief of Staff for the Will County Board. She'll be leaving next week for her destination wedding, and I want to congratulate Reagan Freitag and wish her all the best on her new life, but come back soon. Congratulations, Reagan. That's all I have. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. And County Board Leader and Speaker, Mr. Mustis.
I almost touched the button, but I stopped.
Don't touch.
Thank you everyone for all your work throughout the month. Looking forward to the next month. Hoping spring arrives, or maybe we'll just go right to summer. Our Sox aren't doing very good, Larry, but you know, I think they're a warm weather team. I think that's when the weather gets warmer, I think they'll play better. And I have no other comments. We do have a need for an executive session for the purpose of labor negotiations. So I will now make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. You got to call roll on that. Huh? Oh, they do?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay.
Need to take the vote for